got to be more people like you.
Well, hello there. Now, to add to my interesting array of friends, we have here Peter de Vries. And Peter is a cinematographer, documentary maker, commercial maker, all sorts of fantastic things. You've been a professional cameraman, is it? You call yourself cinematographer?
Cinematographer. That's a hangover from the old film days.
Long time.
We're digital boys these days. We're digital boys.
Yes. And where did you learn to use a camera in the first place?
Funnily enough, I came up through camera clubs at school. I used to always had a fascination.
At school,
fascination with cameras. I used to develop
yeah.
my prints in the bathtub at home. I used to block out all the windows.
That was exciting.
Put the developer in the bathtub.
And you lift them up, and there's a picture.
Yeah, I became addicted to that whole process of taking pictures.
And became a lifetime obsession.
Yes,
you really have to be passionate about making film and that sort of thing, don't you?
You do.
You have to really love doing it. I love doing it. I'm making my very first documentary at the moment, and I'm pretty proud of myself because it's about something that happened in the 1900s, 1868 to be exact. And you are making a documentary as well about something that happened in 54?
No, 53, 54.
53,
That's
54?
Right. Yeah.
When the Queen came to visit?
The Queen, she did.
Tell us about it.
Well, it's a 4-part series for Channel 4 in the UK, and it's called On Tour with the Queen. And it's basically revisiting the whole tour that the Queen did in 1953-54 when
she was very young and
beautiful.
She
was gorgeous. She had the slimmest waist, and she was just the most beautiful looking woman. And anyway, this documentary series in 4 parts retraces all the places that the Queen went, with Prince Philip tagging along, of course, with his hands behind his back, which he used to do and still does.
Did he really?
Yeah. So we went to Tonga. We've been to New Zealand. We've been to
yourself
Fiji.
Personally?
With the crew.
Yeah, with the crew.
Yeah.
And talked to people who had met her.
That's right. So the film, the documentary has a lot of archival footage because there was so much wonderful footage shot in 35mm back in the 50s. And so you can see in the official films that were made about the visit, there's a young girl, say for example, in Fiji who walks up and presents the Queen with flowers and curtsies and sits down.
How beautiful.
But we interviewed her, and she's now in her 60s. And,
isn't
that was amazing.
Lovely?
Yeah, it was fantastic, and we did a lot of work in Australia.
But you said you're making it for Channel 4 in the UK.
That's right. Yeah.
And you're making it here in Australia. Why?
Well, no. Well, it's actually a British production, and I'm employed by a British production company to do the cinematography for it.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
So that must have been exciting.
Can I tell you a very funny story when we first met?
Yeah.
The production team, when they first came out, they engaged me, of course, by email and telephone calls.
Yeah.
And when they first came out, we had a production meeting in a hotel in Sydney.
With the British
production
team.
Yes,
yeah.
and they were all very young people, young girls and young guys,
Yeah.
And then I told them at one stage they were talking about the Queen's visit to Australia, and I said, "Oh yes, I remember. I was standing on the post office steps at Lismore in northern New South Wales, and when the Queen came by."
Yes.
And of course, they were horrified because they thought, "My God, this guy's so old." So I didn't sort of advertise the fact that I was 4 years old when the Queen came. So I shut up after that. But it was lovely.
Well, I saw the Queen in 1954. I was in Melbourne, actually, and he drove past... They were in an open car, and the open car drove past myself and my husband was trying to take a picture, and he stepped forward, and the royal car went over his big toe. He wasn't hurt, but it was a bit painful for a minute,
Speaking of cars, do you know that the original car that she travelled in Sydney is still here in Sydney?
Is it?
And we hired it for the day. And we went for a bit of a burn around Sydney in the original car. So I've actually sat in the seat where she put her bum.
Oh,
isn't that amazing?
Was that?
Yeah.
Well, what other documentaries have been memorable for you?
Okay, well, I've been working 35 years at this, and I've worked in about 95 different countries. 95
different countries?
Yeah.
Wow. You have been a busy boy.
And not just at the airport, but I'm talking about actually going in and seeing. The most recent thing I've done that I really enjoyed was a year-long production called Four, about 4 violinists in 4 countries in 4 seasons, and it was for the cinema, and it's a musical journey through Antonio Vivaldi's 4 seasons work.
Beautiful.
So we had fine violinists in Finland who played the winter part of the 4 seasons, and then in Japan we had a beautiful Japanese violinist who took over and plays the spring. So we're in springtime in Japan, autumn in New York, and then back to Australia for summer.
That is really, really wonderful.
So through the film you see all the 4 seasons.
What a fascinating life you guys have on the film crew. The only problem is you're never home, are you? You're always in some other country or something, or out on location or something.
It is. But
it's very rewarding.
It is very rewarding, and I've always enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky that I have a very supportive.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for talking to us, Peter de Vries. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you very much, Joy. Nice to be here.
Thank you.
There ought to be more people like you